Hello. Today I'm going to be sharing with you the weird, counterintuitive way that I made my co parent relevant without playing defense in court, without being, an amazing co parent, without falling into BS traps. That's what we're talking about today. Now, before we get started, I just want to share with you, you know, this video is beneficial for everyone. However, this training is not going to be for you if you're waiting for the system to see the truth in your situation, or waiting for the system to fix everything for you. It's likely not going to be that valuable for you. Or if you're hoping your co-parent will suddenly change and have a change of heart and realize the error of their ways and have an epiphany and they're going to do the right thing, this video is not going to be for you. You're not really going to enjoy it. Or if you're looking for hand holding, coddling, or sugarcoating, this video is not really going to be for you, because I don't do cookie cutter. I don't do fluff. This is going to be very direct, to the point, and extremely valuable for you, if this is made for you. And you'll pretty much know. So this video is for people who are done waiting. You don't wait to be told what to do. You don't wait for approval. You don't waste your time and energy on things that do not serve you. You only direct your time and energy on things that actually move the needle for you in your life. That's just how you operate in your life in general. Okay? This training, this video, is for women who are ready to lead themselves at the highest level. They want real execution, real solutions, and real strategy, and basically real power moves. You know if that's you or not. Now, as I'm saying, this video is the weird and counterintuitive way that I made my co-parent irrelevant without having to fall into old programming, without having to fall into their traps, without being a great co-parent, without being a good girl people pleaser, all of those things. And you may resonate with that identity, good girl people pleaser, or maybe that was your previous identity. Maybe you're a reformed good girl people pleaser. But the weirdest thing about all of this is I didn't get here, sat here talking to you like this, very casually, unbothered. I didn't do that by being the most reasonable person or the most logical or by being the best co-parent in the world. I am here today where I sit, where I stand, and when you see me maybe on social media, by refusing to play a game that I never signed up for. That is why I'm here right now, able to do what I do. Okay, a lot of women in this situation, the situation that I've been in previously, they think that their problem is just be better at explaining myself. I just need to speak louder, or I need to give more clarification, or I need to be stronger. No. Or they may think if I just get, enough evidence, then the courts will see. If I just tell my story in just the right way, then they'll see. If I just give them the 2,000 emails, then they'll see. Or if I just phrase things in just the right way and I've got the exact right wording and phrasing, that my co-parent will stop doing what they're doing. And they won't be able to twist anything I say. They won't be able to turn anything I say against me and use it as ammo in or outside of court. Now, that way of thinking, in my opinion, is a completely wrong way, backwards way of thinking and seeing this. The real problem here is a lot of people, and this is something I've noticed over the years, and I was there myself, I'm not saying that from my pedestal, is that they make themselves available for their co-parents' games. They make themselves available for their co-parents' dysfunction. Now, what actually works is the direct opposite, and that's why I say counterintuitive. The opposite of what most people do. So, see court. If you're going in and out of court, you're going to see it like a battle, like a war zone. It is not necessarily that way when you see it from a different angle. Okay? This is a room, the courtroom, that you can control the narrative of when you know how. Because you don't just gather evidence, you are creating positioning for yourself so that any legal professional, whether it's a girl, a children's lawyer, your attorney, your lawyer, your co-parent's lawyer, a judge, whoever it may be, they have no choice but to rule in your favor, or at least see what you're actually working with. Because it's not about winning. People want to win. Your co-parent wants to win. You're not winning. You're not playing that game. You're doing your own thing. Okay? Or that communication with your co-parent is about clarifying what you need and want. It's about controlling the narrative again and deciding what you're available for, so that you don't explain, you don't defend, and you do shut down the conversation before it even starts, especially when it's something that doesn't require your time or your energy or your attention. Okay, and your children, they don't need you to fight against, their other parent, your co-parent. They need you to show up as the unshakable role model for them, so that you're no longer like undoing damage and doing damage control. There's no more fixing, just building them up to be the most emotionally intelligent, stable, emotionally healthy children that they can be, who are no longer susceptible to your co-parent's manipulation. This is what I've seen work time and time and time again. And these are the things I've also seen that just don't work. Now, if you're still doing this the old way, then you are wasting your time and your energy on solutions, tactics, methods that do not serve you and do not move the needle. And evidence of that is because you've tried and you're still here. And evidence of that for me, when people come to me, maybe in my DMs, is it could be a yearly thing, or every 6 months they're in my DMs saying or asking the same thing. So nothing's changed and they haven't taken action. I've not seen them join any of my things, and nothing's really changed in their situation. Now, that's not something for me to do for them, but it's for people to realize and just have that awareness of, when we keep having the same issues come up over and over again, and we feel like we are trying and we're doing what we need to do, but nothing changes, that's when we need to have a different approach, because what we're doing no longer works. And as time goes by, that's year after year after year, your children are getting older. Time is ticking. Okay? So I just want to reiterate, if you're not ready or willing to move or take action that is required to make your co-parent irrelevant, then this video and this training is not going to be for you. I mean, you're welcome to stay. I'm not telling you to go away, but you'll pretty much know by what I'm saying, what I'm sharing, if that speaks to you or not. Okay? Because if you're still sitting on the fence, still wanting to hold on to staying small and playing small and waiting for, one more sign from the universe, or even if you need convincing of what your next move should be, or how to move powerfully, then this likely isn't for you. Like the women in my world, they are ready for their next move. They are ready, itching almost. Okay, so this is for you. If you are done explaining, you don't need permission to enforce your boundaries. You refuse to let court or anyone else, especially your co-parent, dictate your life, because you know that you move first always. And you're ready to make decisions like the woman who owns it. There's no hesitation. There's no second guessing. Just execution. Right. Now we've got that out of the way. Why am I here, and how did I get here? You might be new to my world, so you may not know anything about me or what I do, or anything about the whole premise behind unshakable co-parenting. Now, I wasn't always this woman that you see here. I was the good girl people pleaser, and you may resonate with that. I lived my life always putting others ahead of me, making decisions that pleased others, at my own detriment, being the almost like the perfectionist in school and university. You know, if I failed at anything, then I like my whole world would crumble. An example of that is in my degree, I got all high distinctions or distinctions and a few credits, I think it was, or passes, whatever's below distinction. And one exam I failed by just a couple of points. I was devastated. That is the good girl people pleasing programming from society, from upbringing. I was devastated. You know, I studied, I resat the exam, and I got a high distinction. But that's what I'm talking about. You will resonate with being like this, almost like this A-type woman. Perfectionist, don't want to take a step wrong, always want to do the right thing. Always. Now, that's great to a point because it's super important to have integrity. But not when it's at the detriment of who you are, not when you are putting others ahead of yourself and validation and your worth in other people's hands. That's where I was. I don't know if you've seen my very, very first, or one of my very first YouTube videos. I'm shrunken. I'm speaking, I'm talking because the urge to speak and share was more than shrinking and staying small, even though physically I'm like this, shrunken and small, and my voice is barely a whisper. You can go and check that out if you want proof and evidence of that. Now I speak more clearly. I'm direct. I'm clear. I am bold when I speak. I say what I mean and I mean what I say, and that's in all areas of my life, not just as a co-parent, not just as a parent, not just as a wife. But I did start out as the good girl and bending over backwards for everyone, to be fair. I over-explained, I overextended, and I believed that if I tried hard enough with everyone, but you know, we're talking about co-parenting, then others would do the right thing. Now, I didn't realize that I was primed for the dynamic that I ended up in. I didn't realize that. And this is something that I noticed with so many of the women that come into my world, that we are all very similar. Good girl, people pleaser, empath, sometimes highly sensitive, intuitive, but we didn't listen to our intuition, clearly. Okay? I was already conditioned to be available for any BS that came my way. I was already trained to justify myself and to always try to be enough. And I was wired to believe that if I just did enough, then things would get better. That's in any situation. But that's exactly what lost me my time, my energy, and way too much of my peace. Because I was trying to manage someone's dysfunction. And this person was thriving on keeping me stuck in who I was. So it wasn't until that I made the decision that I was no longer available for it that everything changed. But it was a decision that I had to make. I had to make that decision. It was like a crossroads. It's like I can stay stuck in this, feeling all kinds of way, feeling all this pain, all this resentment, all of this fear, all of this guilt as well, and shame almost as well. I knew, though, my life was bigger and better than this, what I was living in. So I had to make a decision. And I made that decision. It was a promise to myself that I was no longer available for dysfunction. I was no longer going to give my co-parent a seat at my table. And I was no longer waiting for anyone else, my co-parent included, to decide my next move. And the second I made that shift, everything became easier for me because it was a decision. It wasn't about my strategy in court. It wasn't about how I showed up as a parent. It wasn't about how I showed up as a co-parent. It wasn't even about my confidence. It was about that first initial decision that I was no longer available for it. Because when you make that decision, and this is something that I worked out early on, going through this the hard way, once you make that decision, every single action you take lines up with that, and everything is aligned with getting you where you need and want to be. So then, strategy is important, absolutely. What you say, what you don't say is important, absolutely. How you show up as a parent and how you support and protect your children is important, absolutely. But at the crux of it is being your true, authentic self in your personal power and making those decisions not out of fear, but aligning everything with the identity of I am no longer available for this dysfunction. Okay, so what happens when you start making these shifts? Because I want you to make these shifts for yourself. I speak to so many women in my world and those not yet in my world, those in the DMs. And I can see and recognize so many patterns, so many familiarities and similarities in all of our journeys. But there are so many patterns in what keeps people stuck and what actually moves the needle for people. And I see it every day. And there's a huge difference between those two women, the women who get results and the women who just don't. The ones who keep struggling, they wait for things to get better. They explain, they defend, they engage, and they think that, this time will be different. Or they react instead of making the moves that actually shift the outcome. And the ones who win, on the other hand, and when I say win, I mean the ones who actually own it and do this, work. They decide that their co-parent is irrelevant. It's a decision, and they move accordingly. They learn exactly how to position themselves in court, and they execute with certainty. And they create leadership in their children so that their children are no longer susceptible to the manipulation, the BS, or the conflict. And they eventually become immune to the manipulation and the BS and the conflict. So this isn't about figuring it out as you go. This is about making that decision, getting the right strategy, and moving like the woman who owns it. Now, I understand there is fear. Gosh, I've had that fear. But it was too painful for me personally to stay there in that fear. So I made that decision that I was no longer going to be available for it. Despite my programming, this good girl people pleaser, this A-type high achiever. Because as well, like the women who come into my world, we are all very similar. If you're the kind of high achiever, always wanted to do the right thing, always want to tick the boxes, maybe a little bit of a perfectionist, whatever it may be, then you know what I'm talking about here. Because also having this experience and having this, failed marriage or whatever you want to call it is like a sign of failure, and that's not something that's part of your vocabulary. So there is going to be some shame and some guilt attached to that. And I know how that feels. Now, if you're still watching, it's because you already know you are meant to move differently. You're done explaining. You're done reacting. You are done making space for your co-parent's dysfunction. You're done. And I know. If you've listened this far, you get me. If you know, you know. Okay? So if you're a woman and you already have some level of success in your life, and you will have some level of success, whether it's in your career or your business or your other relationships, and you want to explore my narc-proof principles and what it may look like to be mentored by someone like me with my attitude, my personal power, my vibe, I want to invite you to DM me on Instagram. DM me the word inner circle. I can send you all of the information, all the details. There is no sales call required. This is just very easy. and to fit in with your busy life. Because the reason why I share all of this, like the reason why I even have my account on Instagram, Unshakable Co-Parenting, is because I wish someone had shown me this path. I can't tell you the pain that I felt back then, internally, of not being my true self, of not being authentic, of not being in my power, of allowing others to walk all over me, knowing full well that this was not the life that I wanted to live. This is not how I wanted to operate, knowing full well there was more for me. I didn't know how, I just knew there was more. But it all stemmed from a decision that I made. If I had not made that decision, I would not be here speaking to you. I would not be able to hold the women that I work with. I would not be able to show up on social media in the way that I do. So you've likely heard a lot of cookie cutter advice and solutions that literally get you nowhere. And sure, there can be value in some of that, sure. But I'm here to tell you that what I'm committed to doing is helping people like you make their lives better so that you can live freely while making your co-parent irrelevant, in a way where your life quality gets better, not worse. You become a more healthy, vibrant, passionate version of who you are. And you become a better mother, a sister, friend, wife, all of that good stuff. And I mean that sincerely, that's my life's passion. And so if you don't just want another co-parenting coach or another program, and you're actually looking for mentorship, I would love to invite you to get that information from me. Again, you can just DM me Inner Circle over on Instagram, because I want you to have that vibrant, passionate, full life that is there for you. I want you to be the best possible version of who you can be for your children, for your partner, for your colleagues, for your employees, whatever it may be. So apart from that, I really hope that this video has been helpful or intriguing for you, and at least a little bit insightful. Okay, I will see you where we're next connected. So much love. Speak soon.